Welcome to another week in advance, Christopher. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing spectacular. We finally have arrived in that latter stage of spring where we're seeing the Gemini energy come online, which is really exciting. And we're also observing this final passage of Mars being in backwards mode for a long time. So I feel like the big shift is upon us. And as we move into this coming weekend, we're going to see a lot of that just sluggish, kind of grinding away, plodding away at life kind of energy finally get flushed out.
Yeah, there's a lot of flushing happening, but it's good flushing, I think. You're right. It's like kind of us moving out of a really powerful, deep Mars retrograde. Also, on top of that, I mean, we had those eclipses. We had a cardinal cross, and the energy's been all breaking up slowly and slowly. One thing about the universe is it's slow. It's not, I mean, it's not the fastest thing in the world. So things do take time, and I think we're seeing as time develops here, we're flushing out the old, this newer energy, and there's opening happening. Also, you and I talked a lot last week about how Jupiter's starting to come into some wide open spaces here, and how powerful that the gallop of those horses could be.
Yeah, it's fun watching this grand trine filling itself out and going through all the permutations and undulations as we watch, Jupiter advancing now very rapidly. Jupiter's really picking up speed, and we're also observing Saturn going backwards in Scorpio, and the two of them are going to be in a really nice alignment over this weekend, and that is being filled out with Chiron in Pisces. So this is a somewhat unusual event. I think the next trine of a similar nature is probably going to be another 25 or 30 years away from us here, or at least 10 years away from us. And the activity of Chiron in this particular grand trine is what's notable, because a lot of us have, we still cling to some old ideas about finance, prosperity. There's an unspoken guilt in the collective consciousness. We're living in an environment of abundance and prosperity, and there are children in Bangladesh starving to death. And I think that what we're doing is we're moving with each kind of configuration of this sort toward a greater opening up for potential healing globally. And I think a lot of the guilt that is wedged in the collective consciousness around whether or not there's exploitation going on is starting to be addressed by this activity of Chiron. So this weekend there's a tremendous coming together, a fusion of energy filling out in that Piscean area of the 12th house. And I think we're going to see a lot of issues about what our level of consumption and debt and the truth of what our lives consist of being revealed and then healed.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, especially with the healing going on, and some sort of lesson. I mean, Jupiter's involved, so there's a lot to expose with Saturn there in Scorpio, so I think you're right. And it's so funny because it's subtle. This grand trine is so in the background, so non-observant, I think, because I think that there's the stimulation of a Mars kind of energy of people kind of stepping out of the mud, people starting to get back online, people ready to take these new directions, that kind of outdoes this subtle unveiling that I think you just described, that I think you kind of have to pause yourself and sit still for a moment, turn off that Mars noise, turn off the new Gemini energy that's come in where our minds are turning a million miles a minute, and Mercury's in Gemini, so there's a lot of questions now. We're wanting to move. Gemini is also a sign of moving. I mean, I don't know if you know, but Mercury is the fastest planet in the zodiac, and it is a mutable sign, so change and quick energy really comes into play here. But I think you're right. There's something in the background here really at play, really like very deep, very emotional, very subtle though, in a healing effect to expose things in our own life, to heal things globally, to open up perception, and how maybe there's different energy of when it comes to how we do secure ourselves, right? We do secure ourselves in certain emotional aspects of comfort. Maybe those aspects of comfort have maybe outworn themselves. Jupiter is always a place where I think it's outworn. It's time to go bigger. It's time to see that there are other doors to walk through. And maybe in our lives, when it comes to our comfort zones and how we do feel emotionally, there's this deeper truth to be found. And I think we have to start to explore the different areas to bring that truth to a better position in our lives now.
Exactly. And as we're watching that activity of Mars, you know, Mars is now in the opposite sign of its natural home. So when Mars is active in Aries, it's all about me. It is definitely my urges, my needs, my desires. I want to take action and get, you know, my fulfillment. So when Mars flips over to the opposite side of the chart and it lands in Libra, all of a sudden that consciousness shifts, and it's us, it's we, it's the collective. And within that, we've got Mars that has caused us to pause and look at the world that we have created around us, and to contemplate how much unity there is in this world that we're inhabiting. So as Mars is now moving forward, it's not, you know, it's not really moving that fast for a while yet. Matter of fact, during your birthday bash, we'll see Mars finally accelerating and really moving forward. But until the end of July, it's doing makeup work. It's finishing up its homework in that region of the collective consciousness, and how are we going to mobilize all of us? How are we going to get our theme, our vision, our desire to heal, our creativity out there and make it manifest and start moving it forward? So this coming week, we're going to be getting that first thread of that kind of energy starting to vibrate. As you know, as it were, it's like dropping a pebble into a pond and watching the ripples. We're beginning to see the ripples go out now.
Yeah, and they're nice movement, and I think we're going to start to see more of this North Node in Libra, this and the South Node in Aries. As there's a lot of stuff in Aries, especially as we start this weekend. We come in with Memorial Day weekend, a Moon in Aries, a Sun now entered Gemini, which can really kind of light a fire up, especially as now Mars has moved forward. I think this weekend we're going to feel the ripple effect much more. But I think that I'm bringing up this North Node in Libra and this South Node in Aries is Venus is going to get close now and actually conjunct the South Node this week. So I think we're going to highlight a lot with the actions we're taking and whether or not we're valuing and we're taking the proper actions that are bringing us to peace, because bringing us to harmony, bringing us to balance. I don't think we can charge forward with this new ripple effect without looking at some sort of you know, there's some sort of outcome that needs to come with a peaceful outcome or a harmonious outcome, or more importantly, a balanced one. We can't over push the gasoline in our lives right now. There's something where the universe is saying, go forward, but do not blaze the trail fast, strong, too willful. There's too much energy that I think will burn you in Aries, because Uranus is there and the South Node is getting closer to Uranus. So I think that there's a lot of energy around, don't push too crazy, but still keep pushing, you know?
Exactly. That South Node, which is referred to as a tail of the dragon, you know, if you look at just the actual image itself, you have this like a cup, and this is the cup where we're receiving karma. Now, it can be good karma or it can be bad karma, but it's definitely the vessel that we receive through. And as you mentioned, when Venus actually collides with that South Node, we're going to be watching the karma spill out. So, you know, who you are and where you've been and what you've done is going to be very much in your face. And that's going to last for this next week, you know, and then of course Venus will flip over by the end of the coming week and land in its most luxuriant placement, which is in that earthy sign of Taurus.
Yeah, and I think that that's going to be a really good thing. Venus coming into Taurus allows, I think, the footing that we've been looking for to happen, where it's like the mud kind of dries, and but it's stable now. So, and I think you're right with the receiving of karma in Aries. It can be a weird thing. I mean, sure, when Aries deals with identity and moving forward into things. So, if you've been looking to make things happen and push things, the universe is doing a good job of making it happen. Just it's saying that it's doing it in a very more balanced way. It's not, 91 octane. It's 89 octane. It's so funny when you look at the middle of when you go to get gasoline. Mars in Libra, the South Node in Aries, and this North Node in Libra is kind of that kind of octane. I'm going to take a boat out this weekend, my family boat out on the lake, and when you go out to the lake, they actually have like airplane octane, like 100 octane, like to put in your race car or your race boat. That's Aries. Like when you get the gasoline and it's the most premium and you put it in there and it fires fast and it's got a higher response rate and it lights the fire quicker. There's something saying though that we can't light that hard. We've got to be more, let's blend together the fast with the slower, and bring this to a really kind of perfect place. And so I think that this weekend will highlight if you're going to push the gas too hard. Moon's going to be in Aries the whole weekend. It's going to come over Uranus. It's going to come into kind of, square a lot of the planets, and so I think, especially with the sun in Gemini now, that's a very youthful energy. It also sometimes doesn't think for the long run enough. That's Sagittarius, which opposes it. Like, let's look bigger. Gemini could just look really quick, really fast, make a decision fast, not look at every detail extensively, just really quick, see the first numbers and kind of make a call. It's kind of a crapshoot with Gemini, like, oh, it looks like that, 24, 22, okay, let's do that. It's just like real bam. So I think this weekend will be extremely fun. But I think there's a watch energy to make sure you don't overburn yourself, to make sure you don't overpush, to make sure you don't overdemand, because this is going to be the first time in 2.5 months we've got some sort of energy back,
That's very true. We're definitely going to be feeling a lot more vitalized, and I think that we're going to also, because of Mars with that advance, we're going to be hungry. I think there's going to be, I think a lot of us have, our appetite for life has been kind of sluggish. And all of a sudden this weekend is going to be a holiday weekend. And with that Mars infusion, with the moon moving, very happily through that surge of dynamics going on in Aries, I think that people are going to want to pull energy in. They're going to want to consume. They're going to want to eat. They're going to want to drink. So it's going to be the type of weekend where there is a need for a certain amount of reserve, because it's going to be very easy to spin out of control and have too many brewskis and have that extra hamburger and ended up starting off the following week with a very sluggish energy once again. And often when we see things shifting like this dramatically, we'll see a little like a backlash come up. And so I would say that Mars may have that little nip, and Venus, when the moon hits Venus, we'll see another potential for that. So get out, have fun with weekend, but be aware of the fact that that you do have certain boundaries that should be maintained.
Very important ones. That is a big Saturn and Scorpio lesson right now. that that if you're going to invest in it, make sure you're not just investing all on red without taking your time and making sure red is where to invest. I mean, that's the power of Saturn there, to take your time. And in Scorpio, we do want to make some powerful investments. But I think, you're right. This weekend can be very fun, really powerful. But I think as we're shifting into the week that advances after this, we're getting ready for that new moon. And I think this new moon that's going to happen on the 28th is really powerful. it's a very powerful configuration, but there's going to be a lot of stuff, you know, I think kind of preparing before we get there. You know, the moon will come into Taurus after the weekend, and I think really ground things out. And I think before this new moon, it's what we call, you know, the darkened phase of the moon. And one in Taurus is about letting go, I think, of energy that we're still trying to maybe hold on to that we don't need to. I think that there's a lot that we're preparing for, especially as Venus will pass over the south node. So this could be some really powerful new relationship, karmic stuff happening, powerful stuff, us emotionally in Taurus having to let go of old value systems, let go of things that, you know, it's almost like the universe is ready for this new big freedom point. And this is kind of a week before we get to this new moon on the 28th of like allowing things to let go, new beginnings to really kind of get prepared for here, and Saturn and Jupiter really like finishing their dance of their big powerful trine of this like open up to these new boundaries, open up to, you know, your feelings, and I think be ready for a really powerful, exciting new moon. I'm excited for this new moon.
I think it is going to be a very electric new moon. And as you had mentioned, you know, we were discussing that interaction of that grand trine in water. And that's a very healing energy, especially around, like I had mentioned, possessions and income and finance and that sort of thing. And then this new moon, when the moon renews itself in Gemini, that's the house of money, you know, and that's where we're going to see money being exchanged. So this could actually set off a cycle of 14 days of really being able to advance, to get some old bills taken care of, to see money come from unexpected resources, to, you know, go into your boss's office and say, hey, I need a raise, you know, I've been working my fingers to the bone for you for 5 years, it's time to step up. And so this is going to be an interesting new moon, because I really feel like it's going to be one with a lot of prosperity energy and symbolism associated with it.
Yeah, because it's going to also square Neptune, and exactly. I mean, 7 and 7. These are kind of holy trinity numbers, kind of two sevens, but we're going to have 3 sevens. But it's going to be really powerful, because this is going to look, I think, in a very powerful sense of where your logical mind and your intuitive spiritual mind are at odds, and whether they're willing to come together now or not, because that's a very hard square for a new moon, which also signals that this month, are you willing to listen to the signs? Are you willing to listen to your intuition? There's a lot around this grand trine energy of intuition building. And this new moon in Gemini wants to have all the facts, especially as Mercury leaves Gemini the night of the new moon. And then, like you said, Venus will come into Taurus and create this kind of money storm. Well, it's like, is it all going to be conscious stuff that you're doing with it? Are you going to be conscious this month? Or are you going to play the logical way? And I think so this kind of is like a new beginning of a Monopoly game that we start this month on start. And whether or not you're going to play a logical gameplay or you're going to play an intuitive one. Should you purchase the first thing that comes up this month? Or should you listen to your intuition? If it feels off, even though maybe it looks like you're going to get all the railroads, maybe you don't buy all the railroads. Maybe you intuitively know that you're going to go for Boardwalk at the end. So I think that this is going to be a very tricky month of whether or not you're aware or completely not aware, because Neptune is definitely the deceiver, and more importantly, I think Neptune is the one that's going to bring out the truth of if you're really aware or not aware. One thing about Neptune is when he comes in hard squares, he forces you to listen to unconsciousness, and on the sun and moon in Gemini, it's going to blaze its magician's glory on it and force it upon you this month to learn that the conscious route wins, that the logical route cannot win without inputting information of spirit. So I think that this is going to be a Monopoly game, and I think those that pick the game of intuition will win, and how to input the intuition to a logical sense, if that makes sense, because both have to work for each other. You know?
That's very true. And again, this energy, as it starts to really become manifest, there is going to be a hidden realm, as you had highlighted with bringing up that hard square to Neptune. But the beauty of Neptune is that it causes you to experience uh, the illusion of whatever it is aspecting. And with this, the illusion of money is all of a sudden going to be revealed to you. There are a lot of people out there who have this dialogue going on about how God wants you to be rich, and God's intention for you is for you to make a gazillion dollars. And that really isn't, necessarily grounded in reality. Sometimes because your relationship with God is so intimate that you really are expressing God's needs and desires um, on a multitude of different levels. Uh, and so within this, it goes into that area of what am I going to do with my money now that I have this potential jackpot sitting in front of me. And those veils, those different levels of uh, Neptunian energy is a morality, practicality, uh, earth consciousness, vision of the future, humanitarian causes. All of those things are going to be woven into this new moon. So your prosperity surge is definitely there, but you also have to be able to willing to pick the money up off the table and not feel the hidden levels of guilt around that, and go out and spend your money in a way that it is a blessing to everybody that you're interacting with.
It's a really good description. Especially the opposite is there's a lot of people who have, I think, a lot of weird self-worth energy around money. Like, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to have it. I think I need to win the lottery in order to even have something that's very attainable, you know? And I think that there's something that needs to be unveiled here, and it's around if you're aware or not, if you're conscious of things, if you're seeing the imagination as well. One thing about a new moon square Neptune is don't forget about imagination. The negative is in it is don't dream too much, learn to be somewhat logical. So we're going to be playing a weird dance that's going to be coming from this. It's a little bit like I keep getting spiritually. They're showing me the what was the little guy with the rats in the town, the Pied Piper, pipe in his pipe, like there's a little bit of that kind of like woo-doo-doo-doo-doo kind of lot, like are you skipping and dancing and having fun? Is it all real or is it not? You know, there's kind of that energy going around. You know, like, so I think there's a lot of us dancing in a certain kind of balanced way that we've described, especially as we do have a lot of energy in Libra, a lot of energy opposing that in Aries, that we're gonna, it's the Fool card. You know what? This kind of is a Fool card. I hope you pull a Fool card for this week. But you know, does that make sense? The Fool card to this, I think, you know.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the Fool's capacity to act on trust and faith. But it's also, as you had mentioned there, the Pied Piper has this element of seduction to it. His music is very seductive. And so within that, you have to be conscious of where you are leading the people that you are seducing. So we do have, again, that very clear Neptunian Gemini trade-off going on there with the Sun and Moon conjunct in Gemini, squaring Neptune and Pisces. It gets a little bit dicey if you're leading your group of followers off in the wrong direction. That could be problematic for you down the road. So very, very interesting energy with this new moon.
And you know, speaking of the new moon, to kind of take things off subject, you and I were discussing of next on this new moon, which is going to happen on the 28th, of us doing a live show where we're going to do the new moon, do this show, but invite some guests to come on and talk with us.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun because we've got a year and a half going here of you and I bantering about different planetary configurations, and so the next step is to have some other opinions thrown into the pot, see what kind of a stew we end up generating for this big kickoff for a multitude of things happening over the summer, but especially that big bash going on there in Sedona.
Yeah, so if people are interested and they want to join, because we want to make sure we bring people who want to speak and just don't show up and keep it on mute. I think people should either put a comment underneath our video here and say that they're very interested, and maybe and email us. Chris's email's at the end. My email will be at the bottom of this. And email us if you want to join us, and put a comment underneath if you want to join us too, that you're really serious, that you want to join us in the new moon kind of talk, which we'll do on the new moon of the 28th. We record these on Wednesday nights. So I think it'll be like Wednesday night at about 8 p.m., right?
Right.
So
yeah, that's going to be kind of a fun opportunity for some of the people who have been supportive of us, and they'll be able to claim their voice in the mix of this adventure.
Yeah, and so I think just to finalize this week in advance, after that new moon, you know, we're moving into Mercury in Cancer, which is going to really shift things a lot. I mean, Mercury in Cancer really does have to voice how you feel. It gets more sensitive around things. Electronic stuff especially is going to kind of get in a weird zone, because we are getting ready for a Mercury retrograde the following week, you know. And so on the 7th, we're going to have 6th and 7th, we're going to have Mercury go retrograde in Cancer. And it's funny because this Mercury retrograde that's going to come up is going to happen at about 3 degrees. So, you know, Mercury's not going to advance that much more. It's so funny on how fast Mercury went here in May, and then he just stops. He goes retrograde. Like, this one is just like, whoop! So even though we're finally going to get moving again, I think, like you brought up about getting your bills paid, about, you know what, there's a lot of details, there's a lot of things. If you've got to get things done, get it done before the 6th. Because Mercury's going to go retrograde, and Mars is going to come into the cardinal cross degrees of 13 in June and do a lot of that stuff. Jupiter as well is getting close to its stationary direct position to get out of or its shadow period. Jupiter's going to pass a shadow period here in the beginning of June. So, you know, June is looking like lots of things moving, but there will be that Mercury retrograde aspect, so there will be a lot of pondering and new directions to ponder as things are ready to advance in our lives.
Well, and when that Mercury retrograde occurs, it's going to happen in Cancer, then it's going to go back into the sign of Gemini. And I think first we'll see breakdowns in communication with family, or with people that we're close to, or people we're living with. And then all of a sudden, when it hits that Gemini space again, that's when your computer can flatline, because Mercury retrogrades in Gemini can really be devilish. So set aside a few extra bucks too to have the Geek Squad show up and fix whatever breaks down in your tech realm.
Or just do the work now. Like, just go out there and do some sort of thing. Like, do a defrag on your computer. Clean out any spam stuff. You know, that kind of fun stuff. So, yeah, and I think you're right as far as, you know, family. I think it might even go around just emotional. You know what? You might start to understand that you really feel a certain way, and it finally is so clear. You know, like, oh my God, I really feel this way about this. And it could really kind of jolt you a little bit, you know. So there's definitely a lot turning. I think this new moon is going to be special, and especially because it'll be more special. People will be hanging out with us and doing our Pied Piper dance.
Yes, and getting rid of all the rats that have been infecting those darker regions of our lives. You know, the Pied Piper, the first time he came through town, he was able to get all the rats to follow him out of town, and he, if I remember right, according to the story, deposited them in the river. So, and then when the town failed to pay him, he took their children away. So, those bittersweet fables from the past. Anyway, shall we take a look at some cards here?
I would love to. I hope the full card gets pulled.
Well, we just had a pile of them land on the floor, which is interesting. Oh, David, I think we're just too damn psychic here. First card up is, in fact, the Fool card.
Really?
Yep. I think I don't think this is synchronicity. I think we just flat manifested it. We just made it happen.
Wow.
And but you know, look at this, the little dog there running behind our adventurer as he's preparing to take that leap of faith. So don't be surprised if people show up with that kind of pestery energy over the weekend. People that can be annoying every once in a while, and this is going to be a weekend where there's going to be a lot of fun, but there's going to be a need to give people a little bit of grace too. It's like, well, just, you know, keep that opinion to yourself, and everything will stay pretty much upright. Then, as we're into the weekend, we have the Nine of Cups, and this is the wish fulfillment card. This is satiation. And once again, it's the appetite aspect of our consciousness is going to be spiked. We're going to want, you know, good, rich wine. We're going to want, you know, flavorful food. Our sensations, our touch, our smell, our sight, our capacity to hear things, all these visceral aspects of life are going to be on high mode right now for the weekend. So, and you're going to be able to fulfill that need to really feel your life in the most physical way. Monday shows up with the Death card, and you know, that's that final passage out of this initial advance energy. And as we're watching the sun begin to really progress into Gemini and get closer and closer to that conjunction with the moon, we're going to feel like a snake. I mean, this is really, in the most literal way, snake energy, where the old skin is desiccated, it's drying, and we're separating from it. So we're going to be able to step out of a lot of the old images of self and start to grow a new skin, start to move in new directions. With the new moon coming up, this guy is the Hermit. And once again, this is not about retreating and hiding away. This is about standing up on the mountaintop, standing up in a place of prominence and speaking your truth and sharing your wisdom, sharing your insight. So this week, for those of you who are finding your voice, you may find that this new moon coming up will be a stimulant where you'll want to get out there and say, okay, we need to clean up the ocean, damn it, or we need to get rid of the GMOs, or whatever it is that you have a passion about. I think you're going to gain that voice with this advance of the new moon and really feel like, oh, it's my time to really get out there and participate and to move in new directions. And the final card, once again, the Death card is reiterated. So after the weekend, we're going to feel like the old skin is breaking off, flaking away, and we're removing ourselves from it. And then once again, with this new moon, we're going to feel like another layer of the old has been shed, and we're finally able to really crawl out of a lot of old patterns, a lot of old energy fields where we were doing a lot of self-defeating behavior.
Wow, and I think that last card you pulled, because we are in the weird Pied Piper dance, like, I think people could also, if you're in the other side of this, because I think there's this weird duality of this month of people kind of carving their lives in the conscious or the unconscious realms. The weird part of these cards is, are you allowing yourself to snake skin out, or do you want to hold on to similar energy and not change? There could be a lot of that, you know, of the unconscious sides of ourselves that are just stabbing a dead body over and over again and not willing to stop that and change. So I think a lot of this is forcing change in our lives, and whether or not we're going to accept that change or not is up to us, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And part of that is that process of Venus having moved through Aries, and Aries, that fiery energy, you know, and that Venusian watery energy, it's very steamy. So that's a very good observation, David, because there's definitely going to be that shall I hold on to the past? No, because the fire is here. It's going to burn the skin off of me if I don't crawl out of it.
Yes. Well, this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful week, and we get to enjoy it with everybody out there next Wednesday. So put a comment down below on the video if you watch this, and Onefeather and I will check those. And if you really want to get on here too, the emails will be listed below on the video, and make sure you email us so you can join us next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, for our live new moon special. Especially, I can't wait for you to pull the cards live as the new moon's happening. It'll be really fun.
That's going to be exciting. Well, David, it has been great catching up with you. We got all kinds of plans in motion, and for people who haven't actually booked their room for the event, the number of accommodations are starting to dwindle. So you either need to move on that, or else just be resigned to the fact that if you do show up after the initial group of rooms are booked, then you may pay a premium price to join us. So take action now.
Yeah, I don't think you would want to sleep on. Nobody would want to sleep on the couch with me. So you'd want your own bed. So yeah, it's gonna be really fun, and I'm excited for it. And yeah, LeoKingEvents.com, and yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody next week here with Onefeather.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, David.
All right, yeah, I'll talk to you and see you next week.
Sounds good.
Bye.